Hello, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Municipal Focus. My name is Kevin Tachi. I will be your host for the next 30 minutes. These series of municipal focuses that you'll see over the next couple of weeks, we're doing them remotely, and we're doing them with the candidates who are running for office in both Whitman and Hanson. Why are we doing this? Well, because we have this thing called COVID-19. The global pandemic has really made it tough for us to congregate and gather and be within, a handshake's distance of one another because we don't want to transmit or spread this disease. So these interviews are a way to help the candidates be able to better inform you, the voter, but where they stand on the issues, who they are. So when you go into the voting booth come June 27th, you'll be better informed to be able to make a good decision as to who you want to lead you for the next few years. Joining us today is Hanson Selectman Chair Laura FitzGerald-Kemmett. Laura, welcome to Municipal Focus.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
So for those who may or may not know who you are, let's just assume that there may be folks who are there are folks who are new to town government, may not be acclimated with who the folks are on the ballot, but, they're energized by the chance to vote in their community. Tell us a little bit about yourself, just a little.
Sure. So I'm up for re-election, and I've been a selectman in Hanson for 3 years. Before that, I was extremely involved in local town government. 8 years, I was the community preservation chair, and also involved generally in the town, engaged in the town. I'm the co-founder of the Hanson Business Network. I also am a Hanson Kiwanis board member, and I am a Hanson Food Pantry board member. In my personal life, I've been a financial professional doing legal consulting for over 30 years. I'm married to my husband, John, for 35 years, and we have 2 children.
So know that you've been on the board for 3 years, and you can never ask somebody who is a member of a board, what have you accomplished? What have you achieved? Because it's done as a unit.
Right.
What do you feel are some of the things that your board has been able to achieve with you being a member of it, or some of the initiatives that you have been able to spearhead?
Yeah, well, you're right. It's definitely a team effort, and some people take the lead on a few issues, and others take the lead on others. But this year has been particularly interesting because despite the fact that we got hit with the sudden departure of our town administrator, which we had to work quickly to replace, and with COVID-19, we still were able to make progress. And so some of the things over the past 3 years that we've done, we managed to clean up the Plymouth County Hospital property, and progress is well underway for a town park if the voters decide that that's what they would like at that property. We've begun discussions with private developers on the McQuan Elementary School and ways to utilize that property with an eye towards it being senior housing and being something that is going to be complementary to the fact that it's contiguous to a school and to the library and to the senior center. We've also sold sold over $400,000 worth of town-owned property and put that back on the tax rolls, which when Jim Hickey and I first joined the Board of Selectmen 3 years ago, we had quite a backlog, and we've cleaned that up. And that's an initiative that Jim really championed. All of us were on board with that, but Jim really was particularly vocal about. In addition to that, we obtained a 13-acre piece of property right next to Camp Kiwani called the Sleeper property, and it was, as Phil Clemens likes to say, it was the jewel of a group of pieces of property, and we got that for no tax dollars from the citizens of Hanson. Through the good work of our town planner and through the Conservation Commission, we were able to do that with grant money and community preservation money. Main Street, that was probably one of my main reasons for running, when I did run that, and to bring back more collaboration to town government. And on Main Street, we've been able to designate that as an economic target development area. And you might say, why do we care? And we care because that actually makes that area eligible for federal and state grants for development. And that's critical because we're a little town and we don't have a lot of money to spend on this, but yet we see the need to move that area in a direction of development. We've also seen some improvements on Main Street with some of the main property owners there improving and cleaning up their property. And that's really because I personally, along with the town planner and the building inspector, have taken an interest in that area and have supported them in doing that and have committed to a partnership in moving that area forward. We've also been in conversations with the Old Colony Planning Council about seeking grant money, and we'll continue to do that for sewer and for sidewalks down on Main Street. We've also recently, about 2 years ago, we made the decision to join the regional ROCC, they call it. It's for dispatch. And we'll be cutting over to that effective July 1st. And that really gives us access to superior technology for our dispatch folks without any reduction in services and without any additional costs to the town of Hanson. So that's a wonderful opportunity there. Those are some of the things, I think.
Okay. I think one of the key things when there's a conversation going about folks who are sitting on a board that is the governing board of a community, finances are, I think, a top priority. Education is, capital projects. Knowing that the town of Hanson is going to be asking its residents to vote for an $800,000 Prop 2.5 override. Give me your thoughts, your concerns, knowing that this has not been an ordinary year because of COVID-19, knowing that it's kind of thrown budget numbers into different directions because the state itself is struggling as well, and they don't know what they're going to be able to give out, especially when it comes to Chapter 90 money, which is Chapter 70 when it comes to education. What are your concerns in regards to having to ask your residents for a Prop 2.5 override, or the town having to ask?
Yeah, I guess I would put it a different way, Kevin. I don't think of it as us asking for the override. I think of us as presenting an override as an option. And you may think that that's a nuance, but I think it's an important nuance. I don't think our board is necessarily advocating and saying we want you to vote for the override. What we're saying is we're in a predicament, not of our own making, not because we have not managed our finances. In fact, we've been chugging along and doing great and gotten excellent ratings, and our auditors have found us to be above reproach in everything that we do. But in this year, really about August of last year, we were told that Whitman was going to move towards a statutory method of assessment for the school budget, and that shifts depending upon the budget and that is actually approved, but that shifts the assessment to a 45-55 split versus a 40%, 60% split, and I'm talking about Hanson being 40 to 45 and Whitman being reduced from 60 to 55. And that may not sound like a lot, but it really is to the tune of $1.3 million. That's an enormous amount for a little town like Hanson that has virtually no commercial base and not really a lot of room to expand residential units. That's a lot of money for us to absorb in 1 year without any time to prepare for that. And so what our financial team has said is, look, we've sharpened our pencils. We've looked in all of those little unallocated, unused accounts, all of those little places where money might be lurking, and we've cleaned those all out. And even after we do that, we're going to be short by $800,000 if we are to meet the assessment that we're being given by the school, and if that budget stays. And even then, Kevin, that's all predicated on the compromise amendment passing at both town meetings. If any of those pieces don't pass, either the amendment or the override, we're going to be put into a situation where we'll have a 1/12 budget for the school, or we'll have to reduce services. And my position on that override is really, look, we talked to our financial team, Todd Hassett, our excellent accountant who's done amazing things over the years, John Stanbrook, who's our town administrator, but really has a background in finance, and Kevin Sullivan, who's the chair of FinCom, but has worked with his team. And they're coming back and saying to us as a board, hey guys, there's nothing else we can think of to do. There's no magic anywhere that we can invoke. It's an override, or we're going to have to severely cut services. And my position on it is, this is up to the voters. Really my role, and the rest of the Board of the Selectmen's role, is to do the absolute best we can with the taxation and revenue that we're given. And we'll do that, whether people pass the override or whether they don't pass the override. We will do the best we can for the citizens of Hanson, one way or the other.
Okay. You mentioned about the statutory method. That's, of course, that's the funding mechanism for the school budget and the annual assessment that is given to Whitman and to Hanson. What's your understanding of that method? And not only what is your understanding of that method, but we're talking about this year, changing over to the statutory method. What kind of a short-term and long-term effect will it have on the town of Hanson?
Well, I think I covered part of that, the answer to part of that question in my prior commentary, which
Yep.
is it's devastating to a town our size. We're very small, and we don't have a commercial base. We don't have any magic money waiting around to be used. And we've been extremely frugal over the years. So there's no excess there. So the only way to get additional money to meet those needs is through taxation, which is why that override is on the ballot. And in terms of what my understanding of the statutory is, I have a fairly comprehensive understanding, since I've been following this since the bomb was dropped in August. And originally our position at that time was, well, how could this even be possible that a different method of assessment would be, imposed upon us? We've got an agreement in place. And our agreement really clearly spells out the 60-40 split, with Whitman 60 and us 40 based on the pupil population. And that's how we've always structured everything, and that's how it's been understood. And so that's how our finances have all been built around that concept and the bill we were expecting to pay. So in that case, it's sort of like going out to dinner, and you order a hamburger, and then you're told, hey, you know what, the guy next door just said to put the filet mignon on your bill. And again, I'm not saying Whitman's a filet mignon, but it's sort of, we weren't expecting to pay for a filet mignon. We ordered a hamburger, and now we're being given a bill that's a little different than what the menu said, than what we knew that we were going to be paying. Now, are there reasons why that happened? Do the folks in Whitman feel justified in doing that? Sure. I understand from their perspective, what I hear from them, when I am able to parse through a lot of the vitriol, what I'm able to hear from those in Whitman leadership who are really trying to work with us, is that they feel as though if they had known about this methodology earlier, they would have insisted that it be used, that as a result of it not being used, they've quote unquote lost money. But and I understand what they're saying, but that's nothing Hanson did. Hanson didn't do this. We didn't do it to anybody. It wasn't as though we knew and withheld that information, or strong-armed anybody into doing something different. It was the common understanding that we would have the 40-60. So I guess, that's my long-winded way of saying, in terms of understanding the statutory, I understand the concept. I understand why we are where we are. We have spoken to our state senator, our state representative, our legal counsel, DESE. We've exhausted nearly every avenue that we can think of to find an alternative to going down this primrose path to statutory. And unfortunately, the way that the DESE regulations are structured, um, that's the way that the law reads. That's the default method, if you will. And in order to use something other than the default method of statutory, which again is, imposing additional assessment on us, you have to have an affirmative vote of the school committee. And of course, that brings us to, well, why wouldn't that happen? Well, that wouldn't happen because we've got a membership on the school committee that is 6 members from Whitman and 4 from Hanson. And so never the twain shall meet. And then beyond that, you have to have that methodology also adopted at both town meetings. So it's really a setup for a town like Hanson and a 2-party regional agreement to really never be in a position of strength when it comes to asserting that we want to have that regional agreement methodology prevail. So I know that was a long-winded response, but
Okay.
that's where we're at. Yep.
I have I've read in certain places I've heard whispers about deregionalizing from the Whitman Hanson Regional School District. Um, what is your thought when you hear that? I don't know if it's something that's been brought up to you or something that has been discussed. How do you feel about going in such a direction?
Well, it's interesting because I think the deregionalization, and if you take a look at the money that we would lose as a result of pulling out of the region, and typically when people talk about this, they recognize that to pull out of the high school level would be extremely complicated, but K through 8 might be more easily achieved. But you're still going to be losing money that the state puts on the table to incentivize you to be part of a region, which is why we did it in the first place. So you lose regional transportation money, you lose the other money, money that you get as being part of a region. Now, I think it's a bit of a knee-jerk reaction to say, let's pull out of the region, and I understand it because if you're in Hanson, you feel very much as though you're in a partnership, but yet you don't have an equal voice. And that's very frustrating. I recognize it. And we are trying to get our voice heard. And in all honesty, there have been members of the Whitman leadership team, particularly in the Board of Selectmen, who have stepped outside of their comfort zone and have shown leadership and tried to extend an olive branch to partner with us. Now, it may not be saying, hey, let's go back and use the per pupil method, because that's not what their constituents are going to allow them to do. But they have said, how about a 1-year compromise? And frankly, it's more than nothing. It's something. And, am I thrilled with it? No, obviously I'd like to put the genie back in the bottle and be able to go back to where we were before when we had the 40-60 split. But I'm also a realist, and I can see where things are headed and where they are right now. So with the deregionalization, I do think just to satisfy people's curiosity, we probably need to go through the process of running the numbers and laying out the pros and cons. Now, at the end of the day, it may be that people in Hanson say, you know what? I don't even care if it's going to cost us more money to deregionalize, if I'm going to have to pay more in taxes, because we will have taken back full control of the money that we're spending on K through 8 education, and I'm okay with that. So I think there may be a faction of people that feel that way, and then I think there are others who are going to say, you know what, well, okay, I just was intellectually curious, it was maybe a knee-jerk reaction, but in reality, the financial picture really doesn't work if we do that. We're going to have to stay the course and find a way to work with Whitman and with the district and try to be a true partner.
I know that in past political conversations, usually some of the key topics that are brought up are the Plymouth County Hospital property. That's one. Kemp Kawani. Also, the McQuan School. What to do in regards to maybe finding a new home for the senior center, or
Yep.
maybe help the library expand. Of these topics, and if you could talk to one of them or a couple of them, what do you feel are still kind of top of the list, that residents care about, and that you're aware of?
Oh, sure. Well, they're all balls in motion, if you will. But in various stages because of depending upon the complexity of each of the issues. So in terms of the senior center and the library, we know that the library wants to apply for grant money through the state. We've been told that it's anywhere from a 5 to 7 year process before they'd even know that they would be approved. So we're looking at a bit of a timeline there. I don't think that's going to happen immediately, but as part of that conversation, we're asking the obvious question, well, okay, if the library expands, would they use that same building? And then would we find someplace else for the senior, center, which is an inadequate space, I feel. And I think we could do a lot better for our seniors than we're doing. They've got an assisted day program. And then they also have the regular folks that are just in there for recreational programs, and they're in very tight confines. And although Mary Collins does an amazing job of balancing all those needs, they need more space. So we'll be looking at both of those things, but I don't think those are going to be immediately solved issues. They require funding and some thoughtful process, but both groups are working on a plan and a needs assessment. Well, the library already has done their needs assessment, and the senior center just recently completed one. So those will be used as a backdrop to study what do we do? Do we perhaps, if McQuan is torn down and we aren't successful in getting that utilized as senior housing, does that maybe pave the way for the library to build something there, or the senior center, or some combination? I don't know. We'll have to figure that out. In terms of Plymouth County Hospital, we've got quite a bit of money that's been accrued in the Community Preservation Fund that was specifically. We've talked for years about the fact that we knew when things started to happen at Plymouth County Hospital, they would need money and the town wouldn't necessarily have it. But the community preservation money is uniquely positioned in that it is earmarked for really specific uses. And one of those, fortuitously enough, is open space and creating parks. And that's exactly the plan that they're coming up with the Plymouth County Hospital reuse group. And it's a great group of people. They meet every Wednesday, like diligently. And they have had preliminary plans. They've had planning sessions with the public where they sought input. I've had all kinds of really, really good, meaningful interaction with the public and, with officials and all of that, very inclusive process. So I think that's probably going to be the first of the things that you just outlined that moves forward. And we're hopeful that they actually do have an article on the upcoming town warrant, very modest, just for creation of low impact roads, not paved or anything else, just creating like some access points into that property. And then the next piece will be starting to layer on building of a park. And I think they've done a beautiful job of outlining that, because what they're intending to do is start really simply and do very basic, low maintenance kinds of stuff. And then as we get into the next year and the next year, as they're able to get funding and look for grants, they'll continue to build on that foundation that they've started. And in terms of the McQuan, I think I already mentioned that, but we're working with with a commercial real estate company who's shopping it out to private parties to see if we can get people to build there and possibly pay the town for the use of that property. We have no intention of selling that. The town wants to retain it. We got very loud, very clear and loud feedback from citizens. Do not sell it. It's too important of a piece. It's right in the middle of that little campus there. So whatever we do is going to include us retaining it, but potentially leasing it to a private party.
We just got a few minutes left in our conversation. I do want to make sure that we touch upon, just for a couple of moments, knowing that you're somebody who is a centerpiece of the Hanson Business Network and helping businesses. COVID-19 has not been a friend to
No.
businesses. And we know that when all is said and done and we return to a new normal, there are businesses that will not return. What can be done, whether it's done by the town leadership, by elected or appointed officials, what do you feel can be done to help businesses rebound after this global pandemic?
Well, I've already been doing quite a bit during COVID. I was fortunate enough to be able to partner with Barbara Arena from Granite State Development and Josh Cutler, and we did a Zoom call with local businesses to talk about the loan programs that were available and other resources, and that was quite early in on the process. We got a lot of feedback that was really helpful to people. We'll continue to partner with Josh Cutler, who's been our eyes and ears on the ground legislatively about what's coming up and what people can leverage. In addition, obviously, the town's going to be as supportive as we possibly can as people have to pivot to, quote unquote, the new normal, two words that I hope to strike from my vocabulary in the very near future. And one of those things is very recently, Governor Baker just passed some legislation that allows restaurants to have outdoor seating and kind of bypass a lot of the red tape that they normally would have to go through with the licensing authority and the zoning authority. So we're actually going to be talking about that at our June 9th selectmen's meeting, along with our attorney, to find out what can we do to cut through the red tape and allow some of these restaurants in town that currently don't have outdoor seating, which obviously is going to be very appealing to people who have been cooped up and haven't been able to go to a restaurant. What can we do to cut through that tape and allow them to have that outdoor seating? So we'll be looking for that and other opportunities. In addition, our town planner, Deb Petty, is working with the Old Colony Planning Council, and I was recently on a call with her to talk about what grants are available, COVID-19 related grants are available to impacted businesses or to try to spiff things up downtown or make things easier for businesses. And so we're going to continue to explore those opportunities.
A couple of questions left here. Knowing that typically when it comes to town elections, WHCA tries to have a political forum for the candidates, regardless of what the office is. And we try to do it in our studio and have everybody kind of get together. I know that there's even one that happens at Town Hall where candidates get to sit up in the selectmen's room and talk about it. But I think that's not going to happen because of COVID-19 and the
I
restrictions.
don't think people are going to sign up to be in the claustrophobic selectmen's room. Yeah.
That is correct. So the only avenue would probably be to do something remotely. Would you participate in a political forum if it was in the remote form and not in the traditional form?
Who is moderating?
Probably.
Would it be you?
It would be me.
Okay. And then I would say yes.
Okay. And last question is, well, one of my last questions, and that is there something we haven't touched upon, but you want to at least take a moment to recognize and speak to for a couple of seconds?
No, I think we've really covered quite a bit of material here. I'm grateful for the opportunity. I'm proud of the job that we've done on the board since I've been there. I am pleased that I was given a leadership role in the last year, and I was able to rise to that challenge and see us through some pretty tricky times. I'm looking forward. I hope voters vote for me on the 27th if they think I've done a good job. I look forward to working with the board on continuing on some of these initiatives and working on some new initiatives. But one way or the other, I will continue to collaborate with all of the committees and boards and citizens. I'll continue to be responsive to people when they contact me because my feeling has always been since day one, whether you vote for me or not, I represent you and I will work for you. So I hope I've earned people's vote.
And if folks want to reach out to you and speak to you as a candidate, do you have a way for them to be able to contact you?
Sure, they can look on the town website, but there's really no need to get that formal. They can also email me at lfitzkemmett@gmail.com, and I'm extremely responsive.
Laura, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Kevin, and stay healthy and stay safe, and I guess I'll talk to you at the forum.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, thanks.
I want to thank you, the resident, the viewer, checking this out, whether it's on WHCA Public Access 9 or on the internet or social media, YouTube. Again, the idea of this particular conversation is to better inform you as a voter so you know where the candidates stand on issues, and so you can make a better and a much more informed decision when you pull that curtain in the voting booth. This has been Municipal Focus. My name is Kevin Tocci, and thank you for tuning in.